this week in our animal science course, we're lucky to have two guests from the DNR, and for me, it's an honor to be able to finally work with a friend of mine, one of my best friends and hunting partner, co-dog carer, whatever it is, Miss Sarah Curley, and then her partner from Portage County is Aaron Grossman, is going to talk to us a little bit too. They're talking about some new programming that the DNR is doing in partnership with farms and looking at, Sarah's going to take a look at all the different arrangements, I guess, that the DNR has been working with farmers, and Aaron's going to focus in on a project with grazing some of the grasslands that up in the central Buena Vista area. Okay. All righty. Well, Sarah, I'll let you have the control here.
Okay, as Randy said, my name is Sarah Curley, and I'm the wildlife biologist for Columbia County. We do, just kind of as an introduction, we do have wildlife biologists and technicians from, well, every county in the state. Some of us cover one county, some of us cover more, but we are the property managers for anything that's a wildlife area and most of the fishery areas as well. So we do enter into farming agreements on many of these properties, and we traditionally have done mostly row cropping or haying, and we're starting some areas like where Aaron works have a long history of doing grazing, but we're starting to get into more rotational grazing, and also we're looking to ramp up that.
I don't know what's going on with that. Well, it's on the screen right over.
Okay. And so we are looking to ramp up some of our rotational grazing, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. So first off, though, our properties are actually, we have to follow what's called a master plan on every property. So there's certain requirements that we can and cannot do, certain actions. So in order to even be able to use any of these farming practices on our property, it has to be allowed within our master plan. And so the purpose for us is not just to have ag land in production for perpetuity. We have to have some plan in mind. And it's mostly on our wildlife areas, our goals are to have habitat out there for wildlife in order for hunters to come and hunt those animals. And we are not allowed to rent land just for the purpose of generating income. We have to have, like I said, there has to be a longer term goal in mind, and then we have certain restrictions on using that income. But if you are looking to get onto some state lands for renting, for mostly, like I said, row cropping, although we do haying and grazing as well, most of us will advertise that in classified section of the newspaper, and some of those free, shopper stopper type circulations. We've been putting ours on Craigslist. I don't know how you do yours, Aaron.
I haven't done that anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and sometimes we've also been just putting up little flyers in areas that we know farmers like to congregate in the mornings for coffee. We'll put something up there too. You can also call your local DNR office if you are located in Columbia County. That would be me. Or if you are looking, you don't know who the person is, how you would do that is go onto our webpage, the DNR's website. Go to the contact us box, and then you can actually search in the subject, search for wildlife, and then you can pick the county that you're interested in, and it'll pop up the person that you would talk to. So on our state lands, we are required to get bids if the value of the rental is going to be more than $7,500 in 1 year. A lot of times we'll bid it out anyway, even if it's less than that, especially if it's a new field that we haven't had in production for a while. We might, if you are lucky enough to own land near a wildlife area, you might want to talk to us like pronto, because then we tend to approach the neighbors or farmers that we've had a relationship with in the past. We can just approach them and contract to if it's less than $7,500. We do have to receive fair market value. So we tend to go off of, for rental rates of the acreage. We go off of the FSA soil rental rates. And then we also can do, and I'll talk on this in a little bit, but there's, you can do services instead of cash payment. And so for those, like say we would have you brush out a field for us, we would use the federal, they have custom rates for doing like medium mechanical brush work, that kind of thing. So that's how we come up with a value for that. So if we were giving you, say, 5 acres of whatever, and you were going to do some sort of brushing for us, we'd have to make sure that balances out for the rental rates. So like I said, you can pay cash. When we do cash value, where we just rent you the land for, say, $100 an acre, when we sign the contract, the payment is due after you sign the contract, so it's not at the end of the harvest season. We've had issues with that in the past where people, their crops fail for whatever reason and then don't want to pay, but they also have crop insurance, so it's kind of like they're getting things twice. So now we've come up with a pretty strict, you pay for it when you sign the contract. We can also do crop shares. So mostly what we do for that is food plots, or we do have what we call our managed dove fields. So in that case, what we do here in Columbia County is you get half of the field, say in corn or soybeans or whatever it is, and then we give you the sunflower seeds for the other half of the field, and then the farmer is required to plant, spray, and mow those sunflowers for us, and then I get the corn or soybeans or whatever for free. Otherwise, we'll do it where we have probably like a third of the crop stays standing and the farmer gets the other 2/3 for free, something like that. And we also, here in Columbia County, we also will do some types of straw payments. So, or we have the farmer provide corn or straw to the game farm where all the pheasants are raised, and then they get the other share for free. Then we can also do in-kind services. So I kind of mentioned that earlier, but where you might do some brush work for us or maybe mow some invasive species. There's a whole number of different things that we can set up so that there's no exchange of money. It's just kind of you do some work for us and then get the stuff for free. Or not free, but you do the work stuff. And then we're required to use the funds for certain activities. So it has to go back to these properties, and we either do habitat work or we can pay for equipment that does the habitat work. All right, so then there are some restrictions. So this little cartoon is talking about using glyphosate, and now we're getting super weeds, and so now they're going to try using kryptonite, right? Well, we have restrictions on certain chemicals that you can use on our state lands. Our lands are certified under this forest certification process. I won't bore you with the details here, but there is a list of chemicals that you cannot use for grazing. Aaron might talk about this, but there's certain insecticides that we don't allow the use of usually.
I don't think we've limited those
Okay,
yet.
all right. Well, we probably will be limiting the use of insecticides on our grazing agreement. So there are a couple different things. And then with the use of chemical use, you do have to, there's a form that we'll send you that you have to fill out when you're done at the end of the year and send back to us so that we can put that into our, we have a whole database of chemicals that get used on state lands that we have to maintain. So that is a requirement. We also are looking to, since we are the DNR, we do conservation of natural resources. So we are looking to kind of set the standards for farming practices on our property. We want to make sure that we're conserving our soil, that we're not putting too much nutrients out there. So we might require, depending on the T value of the property, sometimes we will require a soil conservation plan, or more and more of our property managers, if you're going to spray manure on our properties, they require a nutrient management plan. We are looking into utilizing winter cover crops more, so that's something that might come up with the contract.
So is the farmer responsible for creating those
Yeah,
conservation?
so they would have to go work with like the local land and water or local FSA office to get some of that stuff done for them. A lot of, depending on who you're working with, some of our techs they've gotten into this so much that they're really good at writing the plans, or they might just provide a plan that's kind of tailored for our properties right to the farmer that signs into the agreement. Then we do utilize conservation buffers as well. We don't want to be sending things right into the creek, so we have requirements. Usually what we do here in Columbia County, the technician I work with, Al, he'll actually go out and stake out where the field is going to be for the farmer. A lot of times these fields are in grass that are not really benefiting our wildlife anymore for whatever reason, so the first year around they have to be worked down, and so he'll line it up exactly where he wants it. All right. So you may or may not be aware of it, but there are state laws which define what a legal fence is. And as we get into grazing more and more, we'll be utilizing that on state lands. One of our biggest obstruction to utilizing grazing right now is that we don't have the infrastructure on our properties. So we are looking into getting a grant from the federal government that would allow us to start building some fences and start utilizing cows more. But there are different types of fence you can use, and it depends on where you are. Where Erin is, it's pretty easy to have a 2-strand hot wire fence, and it's like a dirt road around this pasture. There's not a lot of traffic. Versus here in Columbia County, a lot of our properties butt up to the interstate, so we need to have a sturdy fence if we're going to have cows out there. So can't go wireless. We also can't use a static electricity fence. So I did want to mention for this, with this, it's like any other land rental. Everything is you just pay us the money to be on our land. All the other requirements, the inputs, everything is on you as a farmer. Just like with these cows for grazing, it's on you to get them out there, to move them when we do our rotational grazing. All that is on you. Although we are willing to help out and if something comes up. And then as far as haying goes, we are looking to ramp that up a little bit too, especially here in Columbia County. But because a lot of our management that we have out there is to provide grasslands, it's more for grassland birds to nest in there. We don't want to be cutting up their nests. So we do have requirements usually of you can't cut the hay until after July 15th. So it's not going to be like high quality forage, but it might be for bedding or maybe for steers or something. And then we do have, in years of drought, like back in 2012, we have what's called emergency haying, and we also do that for grazing as well. But that was, the governor has to declare it as an emergency, and then we can open up our lands for farmers to come and get free hay off of that. There are restrictions since it's free. You can't sell it. You have to use it for your own use. All right, and I don't know, did I forget anything, Erin? That's kind of just an overview of what we work on. You work pretty closely with our technicians usually, and kind of go from there. We are willing to do kind of, Al has all sorts of different little agreements that he gets going with some of our farmers, so we're willing to work with you guys. You know, this is for us, it's taking the work off of us and making it cheap for the taxpayers and the users of the properties to get this work done. So we try and make it a win-win situation for both of us.
Have you started looking right, especially here, Sarah, because I know have you ever thought about goats?
Yeah. So we've been trying to find goats. Goats are a little tricky. First, to find people that have them, and then some of the goat herds we've been able to find are charging up through the roof for their goats, which really isn't what we're willing to do. Like, we would love to work at like a cattle grazing operation where we actually get paid for the goats to do the work, but we are part of, I should say, one of our other restrictions sometimes is getting water to the animals. Goats don't need as much water. They're a lot easier to get water to than cattle. It's just kind of finding the goats and finding people that are willing to do this. So if you have them, I would love to get you out there. So
And most states,
yeah,
technicians would like to.
yeah,
There is a challenge in that the people who are doing it for restoration are doing it for restoration.
right.
There are some people, sure, who's actually trying to find a way to produce, as a producer, to use I'm on the board for River Conservancy and we work with Jesse. He's in charge of $10,000
Yeah.
a acre or whatever.
Yeah.
As that he's doing that for part of his restoration business.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little
Yeah.
bit. Most of the goat farmers in Columbia County are doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's hard for animals.
Right.
We know it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so we have, there's a new company in Columbia County that's operating by 2 DNR employees, so they're not allowed due to a conflict of interest, but they're doing it for meat goats, and so, as long as they are putting fat on or putting meat on their goats, they're kind of happy with whatever they can get.
It's like running meat.
Yeah.
They can find a market.
Yeah. I would love to find more goat herds. It would be.
MATC might have one in the near future.
All right, well, you talk to me then, Randy.
All right, we'll just pause this real quick. Switch